So I'm very pleased to go into our last panel. Last but not least, we have a startup panel. We have Johnny Thorsen, who's Vice President, Strategy and Partnerships from Spotnana, and Mary Lee, CEO and founder of the Atlas, and Juliana Ramirez, who's the commercial head for Katanox. And these three startups, we hope and we believe, have velocity. So let's get to know each of you first. And I'm going to start with Juliana. And you have given me, you know, Katanox is the youngest of the three, right? It was founded in 2020 and it's the smallest. And you were with Volaris and then Yeoh before you joined them last year. So why did you make this leap of faith, Juliana, from, you know, to join a young startup based in Amsterdam when you live in Mexico City, where I guess you still are? Is Juliana frozen? Okay, she seems, hello, she seems to have frozen. So let's go to Mary then. Okay, Mary. So let's go to Mary and we'll come back. Okay, Mary, okay. So Mary, this is your third adventure in flight, right? You started and sold Arslan to Alibaba. You joined Mystifly as co-CEO. Then you started the Atlas in September 2019. So you've moved from China to India and now Singapore. So clearly a nomad CEO. What keeps you going?
Yeah, it's really good question, Siew. I thank you for having me here. So, you know, 40% of the audience here come from my team. So they're here, they're being with me all the conference. So that's the biggest motivation for me to start my company. I have to say thank you, all my team members. Thank you, Batia, Nick, and all the Singapore office, China team, UK team, European team, and Indian team. Because of them, Siew, because of them, right? So right. I can't stop because of them.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, now we have Juliana back. So let's go back to Katanox. So we have the slide from Katanox, which is the youngest company here, June 2020, and looking at hiring up to 30. So Juliana, I was asking the question that you were with Volaris, an airline, then Yeoh, and then you joined this young startup based in Amsterdam. Why did you make this leap of faith? Okay, she seems to be frozen again.
Yes, so thanks for the space, Hoon. It's only because... Am I audible? Sorry.
Okay, you're on. I can hear you.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's part of the same effect that I'm seeing, like for in general people. I mean, COVID has placed an unprecedented pressure on the industry and on challenge. I couldn't agree that this is not only a matter of salaries and wage. For me, the decision was a lot about purpose and where my heart is. I have always been super passionate about the industry with Volaris for almost 10 years.
Okay, so
then I was looking for skin in the game. I was looking for dynamism. I was looking for building my own story. And this is always a winner when it comes, when you compare it with, you know, salaries or big brand names. I have to say,
right. So you kind of really fit the profile. Yeah, you fit the profile of what Chris Hamilton was saying, right? You know, that, you know, people would rather work in startups with skin in the game. I think Juliana is kind of
within.
You're breaking up a bit. I wonder if we can sort out the access behind the scenes, and we're going to move to Johnny. And Johnny, thank you for joining us at this time. So, you know, you've said that Spotnana is the culmination of your career in travel tech, that everything that you've done is a rehearsal for this chapter. So you're betting everything you have on Spotnana. What gives you such confidence? And we have a slide on Spotnana, which is the biggest of the three right now, you know, with 41 million fund and 137 and going up to 250 staff. So Johnny, what gives you such confidence?
So it really is a combination of I think, what Chris Hammond had talked about, the industry in 2019 had become so fat, but was still making money because the growth was kind of protecting everybody, while the industry became more and more inefficient. I've been in multiple startups myself and always run up against what I call, the wall of resistance from the legacy players who do not want to change anything because they were all comfortable in their current environment, protecting their business model and their share of the overall market. But COVID took that wall of resistance away. And I knew for a fact that new technology had become available and mature enough to start building kind of a foundation that will hopefully drive corporate travel for the next 15, 20 years.
Right.
And the only way to do it is to build from scratch and not rely on any of the legacy systems. And me and a few of the other people who have joined Spotnana, we have the battle scars of having dealt with technology in corporate travel for many years. And combining that knowledge and experience with super smart, young, talented developers who have never touched travel, it's creating an incredible cocktail of innovation and creativity. So, I am incredibly excited.
Yeah, so COVID has really given us like fertile ground, right, for people, for people to accept it. And as I said in the very beginning too, I've always found like in my career that a crisis actually a very defining moments in one's career, right? If you look back on your career, you will find that it's during a crisis that you do the most exciting things with your life. So it's pretty liberating. So I'm going to go to the audience now, and I'm going to ask them, because you are clearly all motivated by the desire to make a difference, but we're going to ask the audience, like, what would motivate them to join a startup, right? Is it the ability to make a difference? Is it stock options? Is it more flexible? Is it cooler? Is it more exciting? And I'm not gonna, when you ask your staff, what's the question, what's the answer they would give, Johnny? Would they hire, why would they join Spotnana?
I think right now a majority would probably go for B, the stock options, high growth opportunity. The tech people we are going after, they're motivated by that. Okay,
and Mary?
I share with my teams, you are not just another number. You are someone, your contribution is valued and recognized by the organization. That's what I share with them.
All right. And Juliana, what is
in my case, the ability to make a change and build their own stories and thrive on it.
Okay. All right, so we can see that the answer is really ability to make a difference in a smaller startup. And let's go to now basically asking, what would discourage you from joining a startup? Is it uncertainty, high risk? Is it chaotic? Is it disorganized? Is no work-life balance? Because I've seen a lot of startups struggle, with mental health issues at this time, travel startups. Is it no clear career progression? What do you think would be the one thing that would discourage people, Johnny?
I think it's probably uncertainty, but again, it depends on who you're looking at, right? Is it a developer versus a business development person? But a lot of people are afraid of jumping into the startup world. So uncertainty would be my guess. Okay.
And Mary?
Startup is real challenging. You can't hide anywhere. You have to face the consequence by yourself.
Okay. And Juliana?
I agree with Johnny, definitely uncertainty. And again, it depends on the profile of the interviewing, right? It depends if they come from the corporate experience or if they do not come from it, if they are recently new in their professional lives. It's a double sword, I think, high risk, high reward.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see that the poll says uncertainty and high risk, right? So really for the people who are willing to take the risk. So now let's look at, we get to the crunch of the issue is how you compete for talent. And I asked you for your key challenges in recruiting. And Juliana, you shared these 3 challenges, which was retention of top talent, diversity and tell me the one that you're struggling with most. Just pick one that you're struggling with most.
Yes, I would say retention, because definitely the industry is opening up for opportunity and reinvention is there. And I mean, It's a conversation in every single interview from the get-go. But now that they are there and they really open up to the challenges that we are building, that no one else is building it the way we're trying to building, no one else is tackling that value proposition, then how do you manage to retain them and to make them continue to be focused? Because obviously the industry, if they love the industry, also there are other opportunities within. So in my view, I mean, it sounds very trivial, but it's all about culture. For me, one of my favorite phrases is this one of culture, it's strategy for breakfast from Peter Drucker, you know? So our team, advisors, investors are always super open, super transparent. We are multinational, multilingual, multi-generational, multi-gendered. So I think this is also the foundation of the company. We are enforcing a culture of open communication, very transparent since the onboarding. I mean, we're still very small, and this makes it easier, right? Since from the beginning, you can speak with everyone.
Okay. So Mary, let's go to your challenges, and it's quite interesting, you know, like cost and quality. So high cost, low quality, you know, so the Atlas is a bicultural workplace, right? You have a tech team in China, and then you have a business development team in New Zealand and in Singapore. How do you manage both a Chinese and a Western team? Like what can one learn from the other?
I think like finding talent with the right culture fit is the key points. It's one thing to hire a superstar, but unless that superstar values the same thing our organization does and is willing to contribute to a team, it's nothing about nationality, it's about like culture fit. So because startups, what I can share, because startups have fewer employees like the Atlas, we just have 35 people. Those early hires are fundamental. One person in a small team can disrupt everyone. So taking the time to hire for attitude as much as aptitude is worthwhile. For this reason, I can say hiring the right people takes longer than I would like. But I have to be disciplined about that.
Okay, and Johnny, you listed these challenges, and you were very specific about, you know, the skills that you wanted. I mean, convincing technical candidates about the potential of travel, especially. How are you selling travel? How are you addressing that third challenge?
So this is where it's interesting, the profile of tech people that we're looking for and we're bringing in. We're almost deliberately avoiding people with travel technology experience, because we don't want anyone to come in and immediately gravitating to what they've done before. We're looking for people with a large-scale cloud development background, and that's where we run into this problem that the travel industry has been hammered for 2 years. There's been nothing but horror stories about how tough it's been. And if you are a super smart developer in kind of a cloud microservices environment, why would you go to a company saying, "Hey, we are here for the travel industry"? And it's really brought me to realize that the travel industry as a whole is going to face a massive problem attracting good developers going forward, because a lot of jobs are considered high risk because of the history of the industry. So I think every time we think we have a great development candidate coming in, then we lose half the time to a non-travel company who ends up hiring that person.
Right. I mean, that was definitely the challenge that was pointed out by Pete and Chris. Although Chris said, you know, people want to work for startups, but you know, clearly it is very difficult to compete for tech talent with the giants. Mary, do you find a similar challenge in Asia? You know, competing for tech talent with companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon Web Services that are all kind of based in Singapore and setting up bases here?
I'm quite positive, because I think that after the COVID, the next generation want more meaning. The elder generation are also demanding more. The great resignation, just like you mentioned in your article, is case in point that where people spend their time these days matters more than ever, especially as we are more disconnected working from home these days. So they want their time and the skills to be put to good use. They want to know what the work they do is going to have a positive impact on the world at large. And they are becoming a lot more savvy around who just talks the talk and who actually walks the walk. That's what I feel.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move the conversation to biggest opportunities, right? Because there we're going to talk about the renewal that startups can actually engender in our industry, because startups are very agile and flexible and, you know, high growth, right? So Juliana, you shared these opportunities and you said, you know, you shared that these were the opportunities. And I was particularly interested in the second point. The battle for talent allows startups to filter game changers and change makers. So not always about the money, all right? What question do you ask to get to the right game changer and change maker?
I guess more than the questions that I ask is the space that I let them to ask us questions and actually make sure they understand what we are building. Because based on the conversation, to me, you as a early stage startup, you influence with testimony. So just as Mary was saying, actions speak louder than words. So whenever you get them a chance, you give them a minute to ask you questions, you can actually see if you have an opportunity to influence them with that testimony. And oftentimes I see young candidates with, you know, little to no experience, or that really value a genuine advice for mentorship, since they haven't really found what they are good at and what they are what they can really get paid for. And when you find this inspiration in a conversation, in an interview, and they understand that it's your genuine interest to understand their motivations, then you have a match. And this happened with me with the founders, for example, of Katanox. So right. To me, it's more about the questions they ask.
All right. Okay. So, but also, you know, I know actions speak louder than words, but money also speaks a lot, right? So have you guys had to sort of boost your salaries and incentives? You know, like what one new thing have you introduced, you know, to lure talent? Johnny.
So I would say it's a combination, right? Obviously, you have to pay market price to get people with unique skills. Nothing can change that. But we are offering that Spotnana is already a global environment, and that people can, you know, use that to move around and work in other places. We have introduced kind of a first digital nomad kind of program, so people can effectively say, I'm going to go to India and spend a month, or I'm going to work out of Europe. We will find ways of making that happen, because it helps us develop knowledge about the global industry as well.
Right. It's interesting, actually, in the first session, we have Agoda, who's introduced the 30 days work from anywhere. And then I think Amadeus has also introduced like a vacation program, 30 days anywhere. So, you know, you're seeing big and small companies sort of introducing that flexibility into the workplace. And Mary, I mean, how do you compete in terms of money for talent?
To be honest, I don't have so much money. I can't compete with the money. Budget is so important for me. If I can keep positive cash flow, I can survive to the day. That's my oxygen. But top talent to us, I think we have to look at other ways to attract talent, offering other incentives like faster career progression, or some a more differentiated employee experience where everyone's contribution is valued and recognized, just like I said. So we also look at different hiring and talent access models. We have a mix of employees, contractors, and consultants. Like my CMO, Marika, she only works for the company once a week. It's the affordable cost, right?
Okay, all right. So you shared this slide actually where you talked about opportunities, and you say basically, you know, no history, quick growth decision makers, which kind of says it all. But, you know, Mary, you've done like you've done 3 companies, right? So do you usually hire from the same people who follow you from startup to startup? Because it seems to me that people follow leaders, right? Not companies. So do you tend to hire from people who've worked with you and they kind of follow you from company to company?
Yeah, that's really a good question. So those people who follow me from company, especially today, one of the person in the audience is John Wei, my co-founder. So because we have same common values, that's very important for hiring. So for me, it's quite difficult to pass my interview, to be honest, because I don't want everyone. I just want talent that is aligned with the company's values.
Okay.
Diversity is everything, but we want a diverse team from our walks of life, but we want common values.
All right. Okay, so Johnny, and you listed these opportunities. You said significant pool. I like this, very opportunistic, significant pool of legacy TMS staff, young candidates. So how are you lowering the legacy TMS staff? Are you having TMC? Sorry, are you having success doing that?
Well, right now we're actually seeing people reaching out to us. As I said, it's high quality people from the legacy environment who also know that the model they work in and operate with will not be successful 5 years from now. So the smart people are always the first one to look around and reach out. And people like myself and a few others in the team, we have a truly global network in the TMC community. So we're getting some very, very strong candidates approaching us. Something else that's also really relevant is the global pool, right? If we want a great UX designer, they can be in Vietnam, they can be in New Zealand. It doesn't matter as long as they're prepared to work in a virtually located team. The tools are there to do that, and the talent is more important than the location.
So this period has definitely challenged thinking, right? So in the first panel, I asked the panelists to say what old thinking needs to be thrown out, what new thinking needs to come in. So Johnny, can I ask you what old thinking needs to be thrown out in terms of talent or workplace, or one new thing that you think has come in?
Yeah, I would say it's the first time I'm in a travel tech startup where we are trying to avoid people with travel tech experience. We simply don't want the legacy mindset in our development environment. And that is a completely new way, which does mean sometimes there's a very basic knowledge gap when we get a new developer in. We have to fix that very quickly. But now we get a person that is thinking completely different than the traditional development mind would do. And that's been great.
Okay, so domain expertise, not that important anymore.
Yeah, avoid it.
Yeah, avoid domain expertise. Mary, what old thinking have you thrown out?
So I could share like one new thing I'm doing differently. So it's really kind of different, building purpose into who we are and why we do what we do. That's the new thing for me. We've recently undergone an in-depth process of self-discovery. Who are we and what do we stand for? What matters to us? What matters to our people? How can we make travel more worthwhile? So that's the new thing for me.
Right. Okay. And Juliana?
For me, it's a very good question. It's, I guess, making small patches or small fixes for the short time, whether thinking about the long-term strategy and sustainability. And the new thinking would be definitely much more transparency and trust, and building like a better foundation of architectural structures of the backend structures of the majority of the travel companies.
Right, because you came from an airline industry, which is pretty traditional legacy, but you introduced a subscription model with Volaris, which is pretty innovative. So like a small fix with a very big, with a very long-term outcome, right?
Exactly. And now more than ever, I see that I didn't know at that point, obviously, that COVID was going to hit and that this crisis was going to be lived. But now you see much more airlines adapting on subscription services. So yes, definitely take decisions for the long run, even though that the value is not immediate.
Okay. All right. So rapid fire. All right. They say people follow leaders, not companies, right? Like you are leaders and people are following you. Which leader would you follow, Johnny?
That's a really good question. I think I would follow one of the people driving in the sustainability kind of a green energy space. So that's the guy in charge of the the Danish kind of windmill maker, Vestas. He is just incredible focused and visionary around what they want to do and how they're going to change the energy world.
Okay. And Mary?
I would follow a leader who doing really good for people and profit and planet.
People, profit, and planet. Have you got a leader in mind? Have you got a leader in mind? Is there a name?
Yeah, exactly. When you ask me the question, the person in my mind, it's like the CEO of Amazon, the founder of Amazon.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. Jeff Bezos. Okay. But Juliana?
Definitely one that walks the talk, and two names of Larry's coming to my mind, the CEO and the VP. I would follow them.
All right. So, you know, you guys seem to have found your purpose. You know, I mean, Mary's trying to define the purpose. I mean, defining the purpose of your company. Johnny wants to sort of disrupt corporate travel and bring it into a new age. And Juliana wants to change connectivity and hospitality forever. But if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing, Johnny?
I would be working in the sustainability technology space.
Okay.
100%.
Pretty single-minded about that. Mary?
Yep.
I would working for like sustainability companies culture.
Okay.
That is what I
And
stand
Juliana?
by. Yeah.
Real estate.
Real estate. Metaverse, virtual NFTs?
Both.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can have both worlds now. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. I mean, I'm so, you know, I have been so encouraged by the startup industry over the last two years, you know, that despite the hardships, there's been so much innovation, you know, which is why we're so excited actually while you're here. You know, I also want to announce that we are rolling out our global startup pitch, you know, for the first time that we are actually joining forces with Focusrite to do it. And we're blending our strengths, you know, and we just launched it and we're calling for entries. And so, you know, please spread the word to your people out there. You know, Jerry, if I can have the global startup pitch. So this is the first time we just launched it this week. You know, we've been running startup competitions for the last 10 years, more than 10 years together. So we're doing round 1, May 26th, semifinals, August 25th, and the grand finals will be in October 3rd to 5th at WIT Singapore, right? And so you guys got to be here and join us for this global startup pitch, and let's spur and unite around innovation. So thank you, Johnny, Juliana, and Mary for joining us for this panel. And after the startup pitch, which are, you know, sponsored by, we already have some global sponsors, so we're very thankful to these companies to basically support us and unite around innovation around the world. And after the global startup pitch, we have the part 2 of the Bridge series, which will be held on June 30th as part of the Travel Tech Show in London, which will be a physical event, which will be live streamed, where we will talk about global product and travel tech. So see you on the road somewhere. Thank you for joining for real this year. We're going to see you on the road for real this year. And let's get back to doing what we do best in travel, which is building bridges. Thank you for joining us for episode 1 of the Bridge series, The Great Talent Crunch. Thank you.